right, Cumberland Gap. Here we go. Hello folks, here we are at the studio at Ellsworth. We are going to break down Cumberland Gap here for you a little bit. Try to just give you a little run through it. It's not going to be everything, but we're going to try to do as much as we can on it. So help some beginners, help some advanced players, help everyone if you're just getting into it. Anyway, Cumberland Gap. This song is on the Foggy Mountain Banjo album. It's an essential Earl Scruggs song. It's based, everything that I do on it is pretty much based on the playing of Earl Scruggs, almost 100%. I put a few little twists in there, but nothing really outstanding. Most of the things I do on it are timing. Like I said, this is an essential learning song, which means it has licks that you're going to use in other songs, and it's going to help you build on banjo style. The song consists of two main parts. It has a low break, down here, and it has a high break. Pretty standard for bluegrass banjo style. And it doesn't really have an A and a B part or a verse and a chorus. The melody is the same throughout. So we're going to do the low part, we're going to do the high part. I'm going to show you some different differences in them and what I do, and as opposed to what Earl does, because I do a little different up the neck part or high break part. Let's start off with the most important part is the Cumberland Gap lick, or what I call the Cumberland Gap lick, and that is this. That lick right there, I call it the Cumberland Gap lick, and even sounds like Cumberland Gap. Cumberland Gap, Cumberland Gap, Cumberland Gap. And that's right with the melody of the song. So, and you want to learn that lick, I would spend a lot of time perfecting that lick. And the way you do it, it starts with a hammer on the 4th string to the 2nd fret. Use the thumb. And right when you do it, you're going to forward roll right through it. And then finish up with that. Fairly standard lick. That's the way that Earl does it. It's the way I do it almost 100% of the time. So hammer, roll through, and then finish up on that middle G string. And then a pinch to wrap it all up. And you want to riff that. You want to riff it over and over again. Riff means play it over and over again. Make a song out of just that. All right, so the low break, the first part, does the Cumberland Gap lick. And then I do a slide. It's another forward roll. And then to the 2nd fret, 1st string, pinch. So you can do a hammer too. Or something like that. Got it? And then I do a forward reverse roll while holding that 2nd fret, 1st string down. And I do a pull off on the end of it. Pull it off. And then right back in the Cumberland Gap lick. So I'll play it for you real slow here. And that's the low break. Pretty much a few little variations that you can throw in. One of them is to do a forward reverse roll on the third lick, which would be like this. Right here. It's actually the fourth lick. It's the Cumberland Gap lick. So it's a Cumberland Gap lick, but you come back on it. And that's a little thing that Earl does on there too. I do it sometimes. And the next variation we're going to talk about is the brush variation that you heard me do. And that's this one. All right, now that brush part, it's a little tricky to get that sound of the brush. What I do is kind of a rake. And usually I don't go through all the strings, maybe just the first, the fifth, the fourth, and the third. Those are the ones you really want. All right, and then you can, as far as the second and the first string, you can get into those later, but like that. You kind of got to make it your own, but it's not a strum. It's more of a bring. So you want this bring. You want a bring kind of sound. Bring, bring kind of sound like that. And you got to work on it. Just I would touch the pick to the fifth string and kind of drag it down through. It's pretty easy. You can still stay in your anchor like you normally do and do it. But usually to get the desired effect, you might want to lift up and do it. So I'll play it real slow with the brush variation. And then brush, bing, reverse, pull off. There it is. Got it. All right. Now, next part, we're going to look at the high break. And the Earl Scruggs high break it goes up into this position up here, which is an E minor up the neck. This is a very popular position to play up the neck breaks. I sort of sometimes with my students, call it the Cumberland Gap position. Believe it or not, this is the position that you get into. And it's easy to find because on the banjo neck, or the 5-string neck anyway, there's a spot right here where there's no inlays. Like if you have dots or inlays, there's no inlays right there. And that's on the 8th and 9th fret. And you do this little triangle position. And actually, that's an E minor chord. Remember, E minor is a relative of G, so relative minor of G. So they're the same notes, but this is your up the neck position. And you can do a roll on. Now, what Earl Scruggs does is he holds that position, which would be 9, 8, and 9 in a triangle like this. And the pinky works on 11 and 10 as you roll through. Like that. So real slow, forward roll. And then you go to 11 here, second string, to 10. And I bring my thumb up for that 10. Index, middle, thumb, middle. Allows you to play it faster. More consistent, really. It gives a little kick to that second part of it. Kick it. Kick. Right. Now, another thing I'll discuss about this up the neck part is sometimes people, when they do the E minor up here, they'll keep this middle finger, which is on 9th fret, 3rd string, keep that middle finger up in the air. That actually is your E note, and that's what makes that chord sound like an E minor. So if you don't really want it to sound like an E minor right at that point, so you can keep that up until you need it. So it's like this. Right there, you put it down, and then you lift it back up. Right, now, I do it sometimes. Sometimes I don't think about it. I just get in the position and do it. So if it sounds like an E minor, too bad. I just roll through it. But it's something to consider, especially if that note's going to be ringing a lot. On this song, it's not really ringing a lot. You're not using it a lot, just that one time. So, but it's something to consider. I've heard some players discuss it before, so just wanted to bring that to your attention. So that's the Earl up the neck break, and the up the neck break that Earl does on this does not really follow the melody. The melody of the song goes, Cumberland Gap, Cumberland Gap, I'm going back to Cumberland Gap. Something like that. That's what I say. I laid down and I took a nap halfway home to Cumberland Gap. Right? So it sort of matches the words, but this part up here, it doesn't really go with the melody of Cumberland Gap. It's more just licks, more sort of a fancy sort of show-off kind of thing to do. So what I did, and what you heard me do, is I sort of developed an up the neck break that matches the melody, and it matches what you do down the neck. And it starts with a hammer from 7. You have to come out of the position, 7 to 9 hammer. And I roll through it like that. And that mimics this lick. So this is this. So coming out of position to hammer, when you do it fast, you can still hear it. Cumberland Gap. Then I slide up to get that high part. So, and then I do backwards. Again, Cumberland Gap lick on the top, on the front and back. That open second string in there. It's kind of a timing note. Sometimes it's not the greatest, but when you do it fast, you can't really hear it. You see what I'm saying? Anyway, that's my up the neck variation for it. And it's more difficult than the Earl break, but it follows the melody more. Okay, now one of the last things I'll talk about this song is the special lick, or the kind of the diggy variation that goes. And that's a special lick, or a specialty lick, or, you know, something that Earl did, and it's kind of a blues lick you just pop in there. And it's difficult to do if you think about it. It's one of those licks that you just have to sort of hit it and hope. And that's what I do. I hit it and hope, and when the time comes, I wrap it up with a little resolve lick. That. So I'll do this. You see what I mean? So I'm just sort of timing that. Now to do this, you get back in your Cumberland Gap position, up the neck E minor, and that pinky goes on 11, second string, and you double stop it. And I bend it, and like that. So let it speak for itself. You can double it up. There's a lot of little things you can do with it. It's a special lick. You just sort of nail it. You got to practice it to fit it in time. And I do it maybe 3 times. So 1, 2, 3, and then resolve it on time with the song, and then go back. Cumberland Gap. Got it. That's it. Now notice, when I'm going up the neck, I sort of come away from that bridge a little bit. When I'm doing down the neck, I get a nice bite on the bridge. And when I come up, bit, bring it back when you go down, get that bite. They were playing down by the bridge, bites it. Makes that banjo have a little twang to it. When you come up the neck, you want to mellow it out, because if you're up the neck, it's a little too twangy sometimes, depending on what you like. But that's sort of the standard way of doing it. Come up the neck, you move away a little bit. And then for the ending, I did the regular ending. Classic. Ding, ding, ba-da-da. Little shaving a haircut on the end there, and we'll go over to shaving a haircut in the future. But it's still based on that diggy thing, diggy they call it, dig diggy thing. All right. Anyway, hope you learned a few things today. Keep tuning in. I'm going to have some tabs available. I'm going to have a website, have some tabs available, have some music available, lessons always available. If you got any questions, feel free to message me. All right. Signing out from Ellsworth.